Students, families, counselors, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever it is in the world you are joining us. Thank you so much for joining StriveScan's virtual college exploration program. This 4 days are in partnership with the Colleges That Change Lives, and a few housekeeping items before we begin with today's session. First and foremost, you are encouraged to ask questions of your panelists throughout the session via the Q&A button that you see on your screen. When you submit a question, it'll go sent to our panelists, and they'll work to answer the question during the session and at the conclusion of the session. They may not get to every question, and if so, they'll receive a transcript of all the questions and can follow up individually as well. As a reminder, your camera and your microphone are turned off, so the panelists cannot see you or hear you. So if you do have questions, make sure to type them in through that Q&A. This is one of 50 panel presentations and individual information sessions run by the Colleges That Change Lives, and we encourage you to go to strivescan.com/virtual to check out the other CTCL programs that are running through Tuesday evening. When you signed up for this event, you received a barcode. You do not need that barcode for this virtual event. And finally, we are recording this session and all of the sessions. They'll be placed at that exact same place that you went to register, strivescan.com/virtual/CTCL. The recordings will be there shortly after each session through the next 4 days. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists.
Good morning, everyone. And welcome. My name is Christopher Wild. I am the Associate Director of Admissions at Caltech College. I also serve as a college side board director for the nonprofit Colleges That Change Lives, which we'll talk about later through the presentation today. And I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm joined by Lauren Sefton, who's the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Rhodes College. She also serves on the CTCL board, and she's going to be helping me out today with questions via the question and answer feature that Zach just explained to you. I wanted to start this presentation by kind of telling you a little bit about my own college search. As you're kind of going through this process, and sometimes it's kind of may feel a little bit daunting to get started. So I wanted to share with you kind of what my search was like. I was the first in my family to go to college. So frankly, I did not know what I was doing. I was kind of just fumbling my way through the process. I found a school that I really liked. It ended up being the only school that I applied to. And if there's any college counselors in the room, I'm sure you're cringing at that. But it ended up working out for me. And I accidentally went to a liberal arts college. I didn't know what the liberal arts was. I had no idea. I just liked the institution. I liked what they offered. And it was only later that I found out what that value of being at a liberal arts college or university meant, and really kind of growing from that. While I've been working in college admissions for 8 years, I don't have a magic wand to make this process any easier. So my goal for this session today is really to provide some helpful ways to maybe guide your college search, to think about what are the kinds of questions you should be asking, what are the kinds of things you should be looking for in an institution, what are the things that provide value, while talking about the liberal arts kind of broadly and kind of the value of a liberal arts experience, and then talking really kind of at the end specifically about CTCL and what CTCL does. But first I thought it would be kind of helpful maybe to start with the elephant in the room. COVID is definitely going to make for an interesting college search process. You'll be the first group to go through this in a largely virtual format. Your transcript is probably going to look different. You're probably going to have a combination of grades and passes and no passes and narratives. Maybe it's a mixture of all of them. Your ability to take and retake standardized tests might be limited based on social distancing guidelines and availability of testing, but it's okay. 42 members of CTCL are test optional, and they don't require submission of SAT or ACT scores to be considered for admission. And 2 colleges are actually test blind, meaning don't send them, we're not going to look at them. And hundreds of institutions have gone test optional throughout the spring, and I imagine that we'll see more as we move through the fall and kind of realize the realities that COVID is presenting. There is some good news though. Schools have enhanced their online offerings. There's more virtual tours, more interviews, more information sessions, chances to meet with faculty and students online. This is before you have to spend your money to go visit a campus and kind of go take time out of your schedule, maybe miss a day or two of school, miss a day or two of work. So you have this great opportunity to explore all of these different campuses and institutions from the comfort of your own home and really be able to make valuable connections with these institutions and their community members. Colleges are interested in your ability to deal with challenges. Challenge is a biggie. This challenge, COVID, is a big challenge. How have you responded to that? And how you respond to that is going to say a lot about who you are and where you are at this point in your life. And we know it's hard. But above all, I want you to remember that we are all in this together. We are all dealing with the ramifications of a global pandemic. Colleges and college reps, we're going to understand this. And ultimately, what we'll be looking for in your application is context, understanding how this pandemic has impacted your high school experience. And I know that applications and institutions provide opportunities to share that context. So you're not in this alone. We're all in this together. We're all going to work together. And above all else, we're going to be able to get through this together. As you're starting your college search, these are some things that you're probably thinking. I should look at U.S. News and World Report rankings. I should look at SEC schools, Ivy schools, Pac-10, UCs, land-grant publics. What else could be out there? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different types of institutions and ways of looking at them. Sure, these are certain areas that you could look at, but there are other options out there. And so let's talk about maybe what are ways of assessing those options. What about return on investment? You should be looking at college as an investment. You're investing time, money, energy, and effort into these experiences. And hopefully after that, you want to go on to graduate school, pursue a job. So what does that return on investment look like? And I'll talk specifically about that return on investment at a liberal arts institution a little bit later. I love this one. Those schools are too small. I went to a small liberal arts college, only had about 1,500 students. I did not know everyone during my time in college. And I still didn't. 8 years, I've been a Goucher for 8 years, and I still don't know everyone at Goucher. So while they are smaller, there are a lot of great opportunities for connection, building deeper, more meaningful relationships. They're not so small that you know everyone and everyone knows your business. How do you do science at a liberal arts school? This is, I think, one of the common misconceptions about liberal arts is that it doesn't include the sciences, which is not true at all. It actually very much includes the sciences, and it's smaller institutions like the ones in CTCL, the opportunity to connect with faculty, to do research, to do independent studies. I mean, those things are really important, really valuable. These schools are only for liberals. Another common misconception, liberal arts does not mean liberal politics. So schools have a wide variety of kind of a political spectrum on their campus and viewpoints and things like that. And so it's not just schools for liberals. And then my personal favorite, no one has heard of these schools. No one, anywhere, ever, which is not true. I mean, we have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of alumni from liberal arts institutions and tens of thousands of alumni from these CTCL schools. And so they are known quantities. They're known for their work. They're known for the value of those experiences. I did want to take a second, though, just to look at and kind of unpack U.S. News and World Report. This is the big one. This is the one you hear about a lot, and it's natural for us to want to rank things. We particularly love in the U.S. to rank and rate things. We rate items and products on Amazon. We rank and rate restaurants that we went to on Yelp. We rank movies on Rotten Tomatoes. We rate our Lyft and Uber drivers, right? But how do we determine what these ranks mean? And so I think it's important to kind of look behind the data and understand the rankings. So when you look at the items on the left there, it looks at kind of the breakdown or kind of the weights that U.S. News and World Report is giving to various pieces of college experience. And I think the question you should be asking yourself is, are these the important values and are these the important weights for you and for your family? Are these the things that you're looking for in an institution? When I look at something like student excellence, that's 7.75% of that is made up of test scores. Are the test scores of your peers really that important? 10% of your decision-making criteria for choosing an institution. It's 2.25% class rank. Does the class rank where they've landed in high school, where your classmates were in their classes? Is that important to you in that kind of 10% category? And are there other factors out there? I mean, what is missing from this list? What are elements of a college experience that are important to you and helping you make a decision about what kind of institution you might want to go to? So I want to offer you another tool. There was a great survey that was done by the Gallup-Purdue Index in 2015, where they did a web survey of over 30,000 college graduates from across the United States who had a bachelor's degree or higher. And what they sought to do really was to assess the alumni perceptions of their undergraduate experiences and how those experiences related to their well-being, or their quality later in life. So ultimately what they were trying to ask is college worth it? Was the college experience that these students had, was it worth that time? Was it worth the money? Was it worth that investment? So how does the Gallup-Purdue Index then kind of measure this idea of college worth? Well, ultimately they came up with kind of 5 areas of well-being. And they kind of, through their survey and through the questions they asked, tried to measure these areas of well-being. This idea of purpose. Do you get a sense of mission and purpose in the work that you do? Do you like what you do each day? Are you motivated to achieve your goals? That purpose behind the work that you do. Your social well-being. Do you have strong and supportive relationships, love in your life? Do you have that kind of connection to humanity? Financial well-being. Do you make enough money? Are you able to make a good living? You know, have a good economic life that doesn't, that reduces your stress, that doesn't kind of, that doesn't lead to insecurity, right? Community well-being. This kind of engagement that you have in the area in which you live and work. Do you take pride in your community? So it's not just, do you have strong relationships in the social well-being, but also do you feel connected in this idea of community well-being to your community and having pride in your community? And lastly, this idea of physical well-being. Are you healthy? Do you have enough energy? Do you have good health in terms of getting your things done that you want to get done on a daily basis? And so the Gallup-Purdue, again, index tried to kind of measure these areas of well-being to figure out and determine, you know, was that college experience worth it? You know, how did they go about that experience? So what did they find? Well, it turns out the type of school I went to, whether it was public, private, small or large, very selective, less selective, was far less likely to be related to the quality of alumni's lives after they graduated than the specific experiences that they had in college. So it's not about where they went. It's not about the type of public or private, small, large, selective, less selective. That did not play a factor. It was about those experiences that they had on their campus and during their college experience. So what are the experiences then that are important? This comes right from their survey, and they looked at and were able to determine that, you know, the odds of strongly agreeing their education was worth the cost were higher, and you can see 1.9, 1.8 was just higher. If the person responding to this survey agreed with the statement, my professors cared about me as a person, taking the time to get that kind of individual attention, that mentorship, which ties into this one. I had a mentor who encouraged me to pursue my goals and my dreams. Did they nudge you along? Were they your cheerleader? Were you there? I had at least one professor who made me excited about learning. Are the faculty engaged? Do they connect with their students? Are they excited about the things that they're teaching? I worked on a project that took a semester or more to complete. So kind of this idea of long-term projects, maybe something that happens throughout the semester or maybe even longer. Research opportunities, longer projects. I was extremely active in extracurricular activities and organizations while attending this college. What does life outside the classroom look like? Are there clubs and organizations? Are there opportunities to get engaged? Are there opportunities to get connected? I had an internship or a job that allowed me to apply what I was learning in the classroom. Internships, jobs, great opportunities to take that application, the things that you're learning in your classroom, and apply them. Are internships available? Are jobs available at the institution or around the institution? I held a leadership position in a club or organization. I had a paid job or an internship. So again, these kind of active ways in kind of thinking about what is this college offering me? I should also reiterate, though, that these are the things that small liberal arts colleges are known for. Professors that care about the individual students, mentoring, getting them excited about learning, long-based projects. And so when you're thinking about your college search, these might be some areas that you want to consider thinking about asking college reps or folks from the community that the college that you're investigating or that you're visiting. There's another tool, though, that colleges use to benchmark themselves against their peers. And it might be helpful for us as we're going about kind of a college search. And that's the National Survey of Student Engagement. We call it NSSE. In higher ed, we love our acronyms. So you'll see some acronyms throughout the presentation today. And so every year, NSSE does a survey. It's optional for colleges that will participate in this, that collects information at hundreds of colleges. They get thousands upon thousands of responses from students. And they specifically measure students in their first year and in their senior year in terms of what are they doing and ultimately trying to understand how do undergraduates spend their time, and what are they getting from what are they gaining from attending the college? So what are they engaged in? And so the survey looks and kind of measures how an institution is doing against empirically confirmed good practices, in undergraduate education. So that these are either methods of teaching, pedagogy, structure of the institution, or practices that have been determined to say, these are practices that lead to persistence in terms of retention. They correlate to graduation and graduation on time. So what are these good practices that we should probably be on the lookout for as we move through our college search? There's these 4 engagement themes they have. Academic challenge, which looks at higher order learning, reflective and integrative learning. So what does the classroom environment look like? Is it lecture? Is it seminar? Is it hands-on style? Are students asked to build on their prior learning and their prior experiences? The idea of higher order learning, taking something you've learned before and building on top of that and adding to it and adding to it. Learning with your peers. Is there an emphasis on group work? Collaboration is critical. It's something that employers are looking for, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Particularly with diverse others. What does the diversity of the campus look like? Is the campus diverse racially, geographically, gender identity, politically, socioeconomically, right? Are there students who are not like you, who have different experiences from you that you'll be able to learn from? Your experiences with the faculty. What are your interactions like? Do you get to engage with the faculty? Are faculty accessible to an undergraduate student? Do they have office hours? Are you able to meet with them? Are you able to connect with them? Or are classes being taught by teaching assistants or kind of supplemental instructors? So thinking about that, and thinking about the campus. What is the quality of the interactions? Is it a supportive environment? Are students encouraged to engage with one another outside the classroom? What are those opportunities for engagement in this campus environment? And are there appropriate supports academically and personally to help students through that experience? They also measured these kind of 6 high impact practices. And these are things that directly correlate to persistence, retention, and graduation. So does an institution offer service learning, the opportunity to get connected with the community around the institution and work in some sort of kind of community-based or service learning opportunity? Do they value a learning community? Is learning encouraged? Is kind of communication, academic discussion encouraged outside of the classroom? Is it something that permeates the campus experience? Are there opportunities for research with faculty? This is a big one. I would imagine that every one of our members of the CTCL very much offer immense opportunities for engagement with faculty and research because, again, of the smaller size, because of those close connections that they're able to develop. That mentoring relationship is really important. Do they offer internships or field experiences? Are those accessible within the area? Able to take the things that you're learning about in the classroom and go off into the quote unquote real world and experience those? Study abroad is a big one. Does the institution offer study abroad? Is study abroad encouraged? And is there some sort of culminating senior experience? Some kind of like end thesis paper or presentation or kind of coordination of or looking back at your 4-year experience and kind of thinking about how you've grown and how you've changed. Now, a school might not have all 6. They might have some mix of them all, and that is okay. When thinking about your college search, I think it's important that you look for and seek out the things that are important to you as a student and the experiences that you want to have as an undergraduate student. Some other things to consider. These are going to look specifically at the CTCL specific outcomes. The number of Fulbright scholars. This is a scholarship program that offers associate offers a grant for research, studying, teaching in over 140 different countries. 26 of our member institutions were named or identified as top producer of Fulbright scholars in 2019. About Watson Fellowships, another grant scholarship program for independent exploration outside the United States. Gilman Scholars, this idea of a program that enables students who are Pell eligible to have a study abroad or internship experience abroad, getting those kind of important skills of cultural competency, getting off the campus, getting that experience. 3 of our institutions were top producers of Peace Corps volunteers in 2020. And so the kind of commitment to social justice, students giving up a year or 2 years of their lives and doing the Peace Corps once they graduate from college. So why consider these factors? Maybe why look beyond the U.S. News and World Report ranking? It's important to know that we often hear about a number of kind of a select number of institutions that reject the majority of their students that apply. And that's not the reality in the United States. You know, CTCL member institutions and a lot of other liberal arts colleges are inclusive in their admission. The average admission rate is about 65%, which is also the national average for four-year colleges and universities. So the reality is you are in the driver's seat of this process. You really get to take ownership, and it's really, for most students, not a question of will I get in, but where will I go? So how might we use some of the metrics that I just kind of laid out, the Gallup-Purdue Index, the NESE survey, to kind of guide a college search? So we've come up with this list of questions to think about. And maybe you want to ask these as you're going about doing information sessions, or going and touring colleges, or meeting with faculty and students from other institutions. These are some things that kind of get at some of those kind of core practices that lead to a good experience. Do the professors care about individual students? Is mentoring valued and considered in the tenure process? How does the school talk about mentoring? Does the school talk about mentoring? Are the faculty that you talk with and engage with, are they excited about teaching? Are they specifically excited about teaching undergrads? What does the long-term collaborative work look like? Are there experiences and partnerships between students and faculty? What does research look like? When is it available? Is it available to just a few? Is it available broadly? When is it available? Are you able to get involved and engage in research in your first year? Or do you have to wait until your junior or senior year? What does the campus life look like? Do students get involved on campus and in the community? How does the school support internships? Do they have a career office that helps students look for internships? Are faculty helping their students look for internships? Are there opportunities for leadership? And not just for that quote unquote stellar student. Are there opportunities to take on a leadership position, get engaged, get involved? Do they have Greek life? Do they have fraternities and sororities? How does that factor into the campus life? And how many students do a paid internship or have a job? Again, these questions kind of getting at, what it is. Sorry, again, these questions are kind of getting at those experiences that alumni and researchers show that demonstrate value. When we think about the Gallup-Purdue Index and those 5 areas of well-being, not only is that just a measure of success, but I would argue it's a measure of happiness. Did their experience in college lead to happiness? And so a lot of that, again, is built upon and based upon those factors in that slide a while back that you might remember. And I'll be happy to provide a copy of this slide deck to anyone, as well as there'll be the online recording of this as well. So why pick a liberal arts college? Of all the colleges and all of the options and all the types of institutions, why the liberal arts? I mean, often in the media we hear these stories of, is a liberal arts college experience, is it valuable? It's really been called into question. And the reason a liberal arts education is valuable is that it's education for a lifetime. Our institutions seek to prepare students for the jobs of the future, the jobs that don't even exist yet, that haven't been created, that haven't been invented, haven't been discovered, right? Because there's a grounding and a foundation in this desire to be a strong, self-regulated learner, so that as you grow and as you leave our institutions and you go out into the world and jobs change and new jobs are invented, you're able to adapt, because this broad-based education that was grounded in skills, the skills of a liberal arts graduate, creative and critical thinking, thinking outside of the box, working with others who are different from themselves, thinking about something or thinking about topics from an interdisciplinary perspective. So being able to approach, for instance, let's say immigration from a historical and a political science and international relations and sociology, anthropological, and an economic lens, bringing 5-6 different disciplines into a very complex issue. This idea of leadership and the ability to follow. Those are important skills. I think if anything is known about liberal arts colleges, it's that our graduates have excellent communication skills. whether that's in person, in writing, one-on-one, a small group, a large group. And so getting that experience as an undergrad. Data analysis, a big one. Pretty much every job requires you now to be what is called, I saw this in an article a while back, a citizen data scientist. This idea that you probably didn't study data or computer science or mathematics at a very deep level or kind of an expert level, but your job as a core function of it requires you to analyze and interpret information, analyze and interpret data. Data analysis is a big part of that, make decisions based on data. And this idea of complex problem solving, taking issues that are very complex and being able to look at them from a nuanced and really important level. Sorry, I'll let the tractor trailer drive by. I don't know if you can hear that, but it was pretty loud. So these are excellent skills, and not only excellent skills for oneself, but they're also the skills that employers endorse. These are the things that employers say they want to see in the college experience. There was a really amazing study that was done by the Association of American Colleges and Universities in 2013, and it asked employers whether college and universities should place more, less, or about the same emphasis on a different, 17 kind of different outcomes. And what they found that was employers thought that they should be more emphasis placed on these areas that are listed here on your screen: critical thinking and analytical reasoning, complex problem solving and analysis, written or oral communication, application of knowledge and skills in the real world setting, the location, organization, evaluation of information from multiple sources, innovation and creativity. You'll see this list very much mirrors the list that was on that previous slide. Critical thinking, analytical reasoning, that idea of complex problem solving, working with others who are different from you. And so these are not only the skills that employers endorse, but they're also the skills that employers look for when they're hiring. The Committee for Economic Development did a survey of employers in 2015, and they were essentially asked, how important are an applicant's knowledge or skills in an area when the organization was deciding to hire the applicant? And you had the option to say, this thing was essential, all the way down to this is not important or not relevant at all. And so the chart shows on the right ranking as essential or very important. Essential being that dark blue, and very important being that lighter blue. And the top 5 from that list, I know that chart may be a little bit hard to read depending on the size of the screen that you're looking at, but teamwork and collaboration, working with others, working on a group project, problem solving, the ability to work with others of diverse backgrounds, critical thinking, oral communication, right? I could have added 17 more slides of employer surveys, but I didn't, don't worry. But again, these themes consistently come up. You look between the two: critical thinking, problem solving, communication, again, problem solving, critical thinking, communication. And so thinking about these things and whether or not the college experience that you're going for have them. I can tell you at a liberal arts college, these are the types of skills that you will be grounded in, that you will be learning from. But liberal arts education isn't just about getting into grad school or just that first job. Again, it is a lifetime experience. It is about preparation for a lifetime. There was a really great study that was just done by Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce that looked at the return on investment at colleges nationwide. And they did a specific subset to look at what is the value of going to a liberal arts institution. So they looked at the alumni of 210 or so liberal arts colleges in the United States to see how did they fare financially once they entered the workforce. And what they found was that the value of a liberal arts experience adds up over time. That return on investment of going to a liberal arts college is nearly $200,000 higher than the median for all colleges 40 years after graduation. And this is done in what they call net present value, this idea of how much a sum of money in the future is worth today. And so when you look at liberal arts colleges specifically, you'll see that arrow on your screen pointing at baccalaureate colleges, arts and sciences focuses. Liberal arts colleges actually come in third in median return on investment at $918,000 40 years after graduation, putting them in third behind the 2 largest types of institutions that have the highest level of research activity. And so we're actually coming in ahead of and beating out 4-year engineering and technology related focused schools, business management schools, health profession schools, right? Those kind of very narrow and very kind of very much focused kind of types of education, that this broad-based liberal arts experience is really paying off. One of the misconceptions I hear about liberal arts colleges a lot is that, well, they're too expensive. They have these ridiculous price tags. And that's not wrong. I mean, the price tags are ludicrous, particularly at private colleges, but there are a lot of ways that colleges work to make sure that the liberal arts experience is affordable and accessible for its students. So I want to talk a little bit about the financial aid process, because you will be going through the financial aid process alongside the process that you're going and looking for and searching for and applying to colleges and universities. So some financial aid forms to be familiar with: the free application for federal student aid, commonly referred to as the FAFSA. Again, I told you, higher ed, we love our acronyms. This becomes available on October 1st of your senior year, and it will be used to apply for any U.S. residents applied to for federal aid. And that federal aid, you essentially add on, as part of that, you fill out this kind of long form that they have. And those, then you have the option of sending those to the colleges that you're applying to. Some colleges may also require a CSS profile. This is a form that comes from the College Board and is used to further assess a student's ability to contribute financially to their college experience. Some colleges require an institutional aid form, in that they have their own form for considering for need-based financial aid. So you want to make sure that you're checking the pages and the requirements for financial aid at the institutions that you're applying to. For international students, you may be asked to file the International Student Financial Aid Application, or the ISFA, to demonstrate how much you might be able to contribute to your college experience. For our U.S. residents, there's also state financial aid opportunities. These typically have a residency requirement. You have to live in a state for a certain number of years, and a lot of times you have to be going to an institution that's within that state. And they offer opportunities that are both merit-based. I know, like, delegates and state senators sometimes have scholarship programs, but there's also need-based opportunities and need-based programs. And there's plenty of opportunities for outside scholarships as well. And my advice here is to start early and look broadly. I remember when I was applying to college and I was looking at scholarship opportunities, many of the scholarship applications were much more intense and required much more information than the applications of the college itself. And so FastWeb is a great resource. It collects and kind of brings together information about scholarship opportunities kind of broadly. It gives you the links and the information there, so something to check out. I did also want to talk just briefly about the types of financial aid. There are really two kind of main types of financial aid. There is gift aid, which is kind of this idea, gift aid, which is money that doesn't have to be paid back, right? This is typically money that comes in the form of scholarships. They might be merit-based scholarships that are considered at the point of admission. And so, you apply to a college, if you're admitted, they might automatically consider you for a merit scholarship. They might also offer talent-based scholarships, talent-based scholarships. Maybe there's a scholarship for the fine performing arts, for history research prize, so something to look for. Comb those institutional websites. There's also grant funding. Grants can come from the federal government for that FAFSA, state governments, as well as institutional grants. And again, all of that money does not have to be paid back. It's all free money. And then there's also the self-help aid, where this is kind of either requires you to be paid back, or requires that the money words are hard at 10 a.m. in the morning. Self-help aid, this is money that has to be paid back or requires some sort of action on behalf of the student. And so things like work study, where you work a job on campus and you're earning money towards your college experience, or maybe you'd be offered federal loans, which would be money that has to be paid back. There are 44 institutions that are part of the Colleges That Change Lives organization, and that means there are 44 different policies. And so I am not the expert on all of them. I would imagine that all of our institutional websites have really great information on their financial aid sections about what documents are required, if there are outside opportunities in terms of talent-based scholarships or merit scholarships that require applications. One thing I do want to say, though, is deadlines matter. especially when it comes to financial aid. Many institutions have a limited number of resources they're able to provide for their students, and they do their best to kind of distribute those things equitably. So deadlines are important. Make sure that you're keeping on top of and staying with that. There are less than 100 schools nationwide that meet full need. And so, just kind of mentally prepare yourself that there will be some sort of money that you have to contribute to your college experience. Many schools give their most generous package to those students who are above average academically. So performing well in school, getting good grades can contribute to a financial aid package. And I very much do believe that colleges try to woo their students, especially the strong students, with those financial aid packages. So I know that colleges try to be equitable in their distribution, but I also know that they try and put generous offers out there. And institutional priorities can affect how aid is distributed. There is not a one-size-fits-all financial aid process. Again, every college is going to approach this a little bit differently. And so just kind of being mindful of that process. And then also thinking about the impact of COVID. If you're filing the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that uses your prior year taxes. And so in 2021, that's going to be using your 2019 taxes. We know that the COVID-19 global pandemic has caused a lot of economic uncertainty for many students and their families. And so looking at colleges' policies around requests for professional judgment, reconsideration of aid, particularly because if your family has experienced some sort of change in their situation due to COVID, just remember you're going to be looking at those 2019 taxes and not those 2020 taxes. And so it is going to play an impact on how the financial aid is distributed and how that expected family contribution, which is what the FAFSA tries to calculate, is calculated. So what is CTCL and how can we help? We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are dedicated to the advancement and support of student-centered college admissions process. We very much believe that this is about the student, and that you as a student should be at the center of this experience. We support the goal of each student finding a college that develops a lifelong level of learning and provides a foundation for successful and fulfilling life beyond college. That lifelong level of learning that is kind of embedded within the liberal arts experience and how that leads to success and a fulfilling life beyond college. We got started with a book. The first book was written by Lauren Pope in 1996. And in 1998, just 2 years after that, the schools that were profiled in that original edition decided to start working together. In 2006, Lauren Pope, the original author, wrote his last version of the book. And that same year we established this nonprofit organization, Colleges That Change Lives, and the 40 institutions that were featured in that book founded the organization. In 2012, there was a fourth revision of the book that was done by Hillary Maisel Oswald, and that brought in 4 new colleges that had not previously been profiled in the book. We do not own the book. The book is owned by the Pope family, so we're not sure if there will be another edition of the book. But we do have this nonprofit organization, a great website. 2018, BAR joins the nonprofit. When they had been featured previously, decided to join us. What do we do? One of the things we try to do is push back on the media frenzy. I talked earlier about kind of how a lot of organizations tend to focus only on that kind of small subset of institutions that reject the majority of their students, when that is not the reality of college admissions in the United States. Kind of pushing back on that. We really want to help de-stress students and their families on this process. I know there are a lot of requirements and deadlines and things that look like, and every institution is different. But this really should not be as stressful a process. Again, the vast majority of institutions are admitting more than 50% of the students that apply to college, the average being about 65% of the students that apply. We want to help you guys look beyond the rankings. While rankings may be important to some folks, and that's totally okay, we believe there's more to the college experience than just the rankings. We talked again, the Gallup-Purdue Index, those high impact practices that NESE measures. We talk a lot about the quality and the long-term benefits of liberal arts education. The Georgetown Center on Education and the Workforce has made that easier to even kind of financially put it into terms. And we also support the recruitment efforts of our member institutions. There are 44 of us and we work really hard to help each other. I can say that being at a CTCL institution has been um, uh, incredibly rewarding, just to have that opportunity to connect with colleagues at other institutions and share best practices. Usually this event would be taking place in person all around the country throughout the summer. And it was always great to be in that room with other colleges, and someone walked up to me and say, do you have such and such? And I say, well, no, I don't, but so-and-so over there has a really great program. You should go talk to them. So just like that great sense of collaboration, because again, it's about the students and helping those students find that best fit. There are 44 college universities, 42 private and 2 public. We representing representing 25 different states. You can see a map there, kind of how far spread and wide our institutions are. And average enrollment at our institutions is about 1,500 undergraduate students. Here is a list of the institutions that are part of CTCL. As you can see there, we do have the 2 publics, Evergreen State and New College of Florida. And we believe that each of these institutions has value, that each is unique in offering students a way to think, or think about how they learn. Hampshire and Evergreen Hampshire and Evergreen State College allow institutions to really mold their education by creating their own majors. Others use more structured majors and minors. Cornell is just one class at a time, and they've been that way for a while now. And others, I think Beloit and another college have adopted that model for the fall in response to COVID. Hiram has a tech and trek program, this idea of kind of how does looking at our lives and kind of the role that technology and the role that technology doesn't play, the kind of things away from technology. Goucher, my institution, requires all of its students to have an international study abroad experience. We have an all-women's college in Agnes Scott, an all-men's college in Wabash College. And in terms of athletics, we have 1 Division I institution, St. Mary's College of California. We have 2 Division II, that would be Hillsdale in Michigan and Eckerd College in Florida. And then the rest of the institutions are Division III if they offer athletics. So you see we have some really interesting variety in this group. And I hope you will take the time over the course of the next few days to meet with our different member institutions through their presentations and panel discussions that are happening over the next couple of days. I, along with CTCL, are here to help. Information is right there on the screen. And Colleges That Change Lives, we have an amazing website, ctcl.org. There's information about all the colleges there. And there's a really nifty brand new college search tool. The website is there, but you can also get to it just by going to ctcl.org, where you can search by majors, location. I think athletics is an option. So you can go see which of our member institutions match what you're looking for. And be sure to also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're not on TikTok yet. Maybe we'll get there. And those are all at CTCL colleges. So with that, I will close up the presentation and turn it over to y'all. If you have any questions, feel free to use that question and answer feature to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Chris, for all of this great information. We did have one question about preparation for med school. Are liberal arts and sciences colleges good options for med school potential applicants?
Awesome. That is an excellent question. So can liberal arts or are liberal arts colleges equipped to help with preparation for med school? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. Again, being in a smaller institution, you have that opportunity and that access to faculty and to resources. And then there's great connections that you get to make. I know, specifically with my institution, you have that opportunity to be engaged in research all throughout your time in the college, and that's true of probably most of our institutions. And because these are smaller colleges and that you do get to know those faculty, you are able to have experiences, and a lot of times in terms of research or internships or field experiences, that students who have gone to larger institutions where maybe the faculty are a little bit more focused on their graduate students or their doctoral level students, that undergrads maybe aren't the focus or the emphasis. So a lot of times our students at our member schools get to have experiences that their counterparts at larger institutions didn't get to have, that they didn't experience until they got into medical school. And so kind of giving our students a little bit of a leg up when they get to those institutions. Maybe we have time for one more question.
Chris, you talked a little bit about athletics in Division I, II, and III within the group. Can you talk a little bit more about how liberal arts colleges support athletics?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to vary from institution to institution, right? Again, we kind of walk through the Division One, Division Two, and kind of the remainder being Division Three institutions. There is athletics is a really valuable part of a college experience. It provides for a great sense of community. It really provides for a grounding in your experience, and colleges are going to support that. It really does add to your learning and your growth. We talk about kind of a lot of those skills that employers are looking for. Those are skills that you earn or you learn while you're on the athletic fields. And so institutions that have athletic programs are going to support them. It is an important part of the experience. And you would find that at a liberal arts college. And Zach has popped back in, so I think I'm about to get the hook here. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in, spending your Saturday morning with me, and I'll turn it over to Zach to close out the session.
Thank you so much, Chris, and Lauren as well for helping answer the questions behind the scenes. Students and counselors, thank you for joining this session. A few reminders as you close this window, a very quick 4-question survey will appear, so I do ask for your feedback on the session. And we encourage you to sign up for additional sessions at strivescan.com/virtual/CTCL. All of these institutions, the colleges that change lives, will be presenting individual information sessions, including Goucher, and this will be running through Tuesday evening. So we encourage you to sign up for all of those sessions and learn about all of the colleges that change lives. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.